The Montreal Canadiens were one of the biggest pleasant surprises in the NHL this past season, putting together a very respectable 40-win, 91-point campaign that found them in the second wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference in a year where very few people thought that they would even sniff a playoff berth. The young team under head coach Marty St. Louis and young studs like captain Nick Suzuki, sniper Cole Caufield, rookie sensation Lane Hutson, and goaltender Sam Montembeault, among others, battled hard all season long and proved that they could beat any team in the league on any given night. They'd end up getting taken down by the one-seeded Washington Capitals in 5 games in round 1, but anyone who actually watched that series knows the Habs did not make it easy for the Caps to get past them. Pretty much all those games were extremely close, down to the very end. The Canadiens organization has been hard at work all offseason thus far, making some brilliant moves and giving this roster a chance to really take the next step next year, setting themselves up to be a perennial powerhouse in the very near future. The first big move GM Kent Hughes and the Habs made came at the NHL entry draft, and after Islanders defenseman Noah Dobson's name kept coming up in trade talks, and with New York not wanting to sign him to a long-term deal, Montreal decided to move both of their mid-first-round picks, the 16th and 17th overall selections, as well as 23-year-old depth winger Emil Heineman, for the 25-year-old right-shot defenseman Noah Dobson, who they quickly locked up to an 8-year contract that pays Dobson $9.5 million per year. I absolutely love this move for Montreal. Dobson is coming off of a down year production-wise, but he is just 2 years removed from a 70-point season and is a guy who's consistently scored 10-plus goals and 50-plus points, and still being just 25 years old and potentially playing with a dynamic D partner like Lane Hutson, those numbers can certainly go up. The main drawback in Dobson's game that I've seen people talk about is his play on the defensive side of the puck, but I would argue that stems from him being the main offensive defenseman on the Islanders over the past few seasons, and is something that I can still get better at in a different system, and potentially playing with a guy like Hutson who is as dynamic as they come. Another key move the Canadiens made this offseason was trading for 22-year-old winger Zachary Bolduc from the St. Louis Blues. Bolduc is coming off of a season where he scored 19 goals and 36 points in 72 games while averaging just 12 minutes and 48 seconds of ice time. He's a guy that was the 17th overall pick in the 2021 draft and scored 50 goals in 2 separate seasons in the QMJHL. He's got loads of potential and could very well play his way into a top 6 role in Montreal. The Habs did give up young offensive defenseman Logan Mailloux, but after acquiring Dobson and still having David Reinbacher in the system, kind of made Mailloux expendable. The main reason why Montreal and their fans should be excited for the next several years is because of what they already have on their team and in their system. Starting it off at the top with their captain Nick Suzuki, the number 1 center who turns 26 in August and is just now starting to enter the prime of his career. He had a career-high 89 points this year, which was tied for 13th league-wide, and he's also a very responsible two-way center. On the top line, you also have 24-year-old goal-scoring winger Cole Caufield, who's also coming off of a career-high with 37 goals and 70 points. Caufield is an incredibly talented player who's starting to gain a ton of confidence and is a guy who I could easily see hitting 50 goals one day. The other player who spent a lot of time on the top line with Caufield and Suzuki is the first overall pick from 2022, Slovakian winger Juraj Slafkovsky. Slav, the 6'3" forward, is still just 21 years old and just had his second straight 50-point season. I think he's a guy that still has a lot of room to grow and a lot of untapped potential at the NHL level. He has an absolute rocket of a shot and size that few skilled wingers have at his position. If his confidence continues to grow and he starts shooting the puck a bit more, he could eventually become a 30-plus goal, 70-plus point player in the NHL, I think. A huge X factor for the Canadiens on offense could potentially be the true emergence of Ivan Demidov. The 5th overall pick from 2024 joined Montreal late in the season and played with them, of course, during the playoffs, but this is a guy who was dominant as a teenager in the KHL with St. Petersburg, and after seeing what Russian playmakers like Kirill Kaprizov and Matvei Michkov did in their first full NHL seasons, there's reason to be excited about what Demidov could do. The Habs also will have Patrick Laine in his second season with the team. The 27-year-old just scored 20 goals in 52 games with Montreal. Moving on to the defense, we have to talk about the Calder Trophy winner, 21-year-old defenseman Lane Hutson, who's quickly becoming one of my favorite players in the league. Hutson had an historically good rookie season for a defenseman. His 66 points are 5th most by any rookie D-man in NHL history, and the most since Quinn Hughes had 53 his rookie year in 2019-20. The sky is the limit for this kid. He's as dynamic as anyone in the league and is likely a future Norris Trophy winner. And if you watch him play, he can 100% hold his own on the defensive side of things. Caden Goalie is also a big part of this Montreal blue line. He averaged just over 21 minutes a night in his 55 games this year. He's still just 23 years old and is a key cog in that top four. And David Reinbacher, the Habs' 5th overall pick in 2023, has a shot at potentially making the team this year after spending parts of the last 2 seasons in the AHL with Laval. Now finally, the Canadiens also have some strong goaltenders in the system and on the roster as well. The 28-year-old Sam Montembeault played a career-high 62 games this season, put up 31 wins and a .902 save percentage, and in the playoffs before getting hurt, he did not look scared or out of place at all. If he continues to get better this year, he could very well be the #1 guy this team relies on heavily for the next several years. Jakub Dobis was a strong young backup throughout the season and appeared dominant at times, but he did struggle a bit in the playoffs coming in after Montembeault got hurt. The other key piece of the Habs' future is stud goalie prospect Jacob Fowler, who is arguably the best goalie in college hockey each of the past 2 seasons. He played his first few pro games for Laval at the end of last season and will likely spend the full year with that AHL squad, but he's certainly a guy to keep an eye on going into the future for this team. The Montreal Canadiens are locked and loaded with young players hungry to give this city something to cheer for and potentially their first Stanley Cup since 1993. Let me know what you think of this promising Habs team, and like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this.